Hello, welcome to the Pint Patter podcast, where our patters pish, but our pints aren't. To introduce ourselves, I'm Caden, and I am joined by my co-host, Dino.
Hi, hello. I've got my tinny ready, and it's episode 8. It's
Okay,
episode 8 already. We're getting through them.
we're in through them.
Oof. So what's the main topic for today?
Yes, the main agenda of today's episode is tropes. It's just in general. I have a few based ones, but the topic being tropes is just in general. We're going to talk about them, give a few examples, not really delve in those examples, but just talk about the thing in its entirety.
There's a lot, isn't there?
Yeah. Oh, a lot to chug through. Would you like me to start?
Aye, on you go.
Well, my first trope is one I like a lot. I really like, and it's redemption arcs, and the whole idea of a character who has either done something bad in the past and wants to atone for it, or was a bad person for the longest time and has decided to redeem themselves through some sort of personality change, moral compass shift, or none other. Some examples would be, I think the most famous is Zuko from Avatar: The Last Airbender, and his whole deal being like he hunts the Avatar, blah blah blah. He was shunned from his father, basically exiled from the Fire Nation because he lost an Agni Kai, which is a fight. And the whole dealio there is he's hunting the Avatar to bring back to his dad. But there's a shift with the second and third books of the series where he starts realizing what he's doing is bad, and he starts trying to atone. And by the third book, he's on the Avatar side, and you're just like, yeah, man, he's such a cool character. You've got Vegeta from Dragon Ball Z, who's pretty much the same. He's an absolute cunt. He came to Earth to destroy everything, get the Dragon Balls. He went to Namek. He committed genocide to aliens on another planet. But he starts shifting to like an anti-hero and now just to a hero in general. Then you've got Steve Harrington from like Stranger Things. A bit more of a...
Oh, yeah.
a bit more of a... Not a subtle one, but like it's not evidently shown that he's like an actual bad guy, but from our perspectives to begin with, you can see like, oh, this guy's a dick. Oh, you should just let them two get together. You should stay out of it. But then near the end of the series, he's actually quite Chad. He's quite a good guy with his baseball bat taking on the fucking Demogorgon.
He grew into a fan favorite, I think.
Yeah, really good. And then the last of my examples for that would be the 12th Doctor, Peter Capaldi's Doctor, in which, as I was saying, like characters who have done something in the past, so they don't always have to start off or even be bad like people. Like the Doctor is a good person. He strives to save people. He never kills or doesn't try to kill. But the 12th Doctor feels like he needs to atone for his past and all that sort of stuff. Like he feels responsible for Davros leaving him as a child in the wars, and he eventually became like the Dalek creator and that sort of stuff. But I just really like redemption arcs. There's a few more I could mention, but that's all I really have to say about it. It's like just a really endearing trope in character writing and all that. How about yourself?
Yeah, it's quite a good trope actually. I enjoy it. But I think the first one I'm going to mention is how you get those shows or those casts, and it's the trope of like an idiot character. So yeah, you've got like this group of character, and there's always the one there that's just there for a bit of comic relief. They're a bit stupid. They've got like silly jokes, right?
Yeah.
So for example, in Anchorman, you've got Brick, who's played by obviously the famous Steve Carell. And I think with this trope, I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with it. More times I do enjoy it. I do enjoy the idiot character. But I can imagine why some people would dislike it. But a lot of the time I do enjoy having just that one character that's there. Like even if it's like a duo and one of them is the stupid one, you know, Billy from Billy and Mandy,
Yeah.
Gum Adventures. Yeah, he was very stupid, and I enjoyed his humor. Or you've got Drax from Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh,
Whereas, there's there's so many good ones from Drax as well in the film that just add to it.
yeah.
Add to like Marvel's almost like seriousness with the whole story, but they've got the odd jokes that they'll slide in here and there, you know.
Why is Gamora?
I'll do you one better. Why is Gamora?
Or when he's in the ship and he's like standing completely still, so he's like, oh, I can't even remember the quote for it, but it's just a funny scene.
Well, what was her name in Guardians? The one with the that could if she touched you, she could feel. Mantis. Yeah, that. There was one scene that I absolutely lost it, and it's like Drax and Mantis standing there after something had happened, and then all of a sudden this fucking like rock or like meteor hits Mantis, and then like 3 seconds after, Drax is like, "Mantis, look out!" It's so fucking stupid. But
oh my god.
yeah, that's the first trope I'm gonna mention. You know.
Nice. It is really prevalent with a lot of like crews today. There's always the idiot in the cast.
Mm-hmm.
But my next one is one I incredibly hate. I don't mind the concept of romance in films as long as it's not played too deeply aside from its main plot.
Yeah.
I could care less if it's like a romantic film. I'm not gonna watch it, but like see if it's like a bad film. But yeah, and my trope here that I hate is love triangles, and there's chock a block of like there's so many of them. So you like, it's like nobody's interested. Like I don't think there's many people that are interested in love triangles. Amy, Rory, and the Doctor from Doctor Who. I don't think anybody was watching Doctor Who and went, "This is really what we needed for this sci-fi show: is a love triangle between a fucking 100 centuries-year-old fucking Time Lord, Invernessian, and Rory."
Mm-hmm.
It's like no, that's not interesting. You're not making this as more like you're making it more convoluted and annoying than it is like, oh my god, there's a new aspect, there's love, the love triangle. No, it's awful. Like, fucking Amy's an awful person for doing that. Nah. I like her character, but then you've got like you expect from How I Met Your Mother because Ted's just an awful cunt anyway. But the Ted, Robin, and Elizabeth love triangle, that's pretty bad as well. There's one with Barney and Robin, somebody else as well. What?
Was Elizabeth the baker?
I think she was the baker. I might be right. It was season 1.
Yeah.
I know this because I had to look it up. But it was season 1.
Right.
It's the one in season 1. There's, I think, the most famous love triangle, like being Bella, Edward, and Jacob from Twilight.
Oh my god. Aye.
Just no, thank you. Just awkward at the best of times.
Mm-hmm.
And the last one, and it makes it's not something like I think is awful, but I very much dislike Scott for, and it makes his case of being like a relatable or a good character from Scott Pilgrim vs. the World is Scott Knives and Ramona.
Mm-hmm.
Being that Scott is in the movie, I don't know, it's considered paedophilia in other countries and stuff, but I think in Canada or wherever they are, the age at which Scott, I think he's a 22 or 23-year-old, is dating the 17-year-old Knives Chow. And eventually meets up with Ramona, who's somebody more his age, and starts cheating on Knives, which sounds like, that's just a dick move. And it becomes a love triangle through, like, Knives seeing Ramona and, like, Scott thingy and all that, and Scott's clearly not wanting anything to do with Knives anymore, but he's being such a cunt and not saying anything about it, even though so many people are telling him. But that's why I don't like love triangles. It's such an annoying trope that can be so easily solved. Like, you don't need it. You really don't.
No. I'm not a fan of them either, to be fair. Like there's the show Lucifer, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've watched that quite a bit. Big fan of the show. But it's one of those shows where you've kind of got like the main storyline, and then on the side you've got this love triangle that they've set up, right? And I think to start with, it was mostly like just the two, and it was like, oh, they're bonding more and more. When are they gonna get together? And then a third person comes in like a later season. It's like, come on, please, Can we please get past this? I don't want to deal with a fucking love triangle right now for like another season. It's like, no. So yeah, I fully understand the fucking hate for love triangles.
Yeah.
The next one I'm going to mention actually is the trope of like characters who are drunk with power, right? And I find this a very interesting one because it really shows. In some cases, it adds like a development to the character. For instance, Walter White. Because at the start, he's got this idea in his head that he wants to get. He starts off for like, I think, money, was it?
Yeah.
And just because he was like,
he's gonna
just
die,
sort of went to his head,
and he doesn't want to leave them with nothing.
Aye. So it started out with that, and then obviously as the show progressed, he has this in his mind, and he starts doing more and more like reckless and just like savage stuff,
Yeah.
And he becomes really power hungry throughout the show, and it's great to see. I really enjoy it. As well as like in Borderlands, you've got Handsome Jack, or even the twins from Borderlands 3 as well.
Yeah.
But just seeing them absolutely power hungry, especially like because in pre-sequel he wasn't so much power hungry. He was less.
That was just like
that.
his origin.
Yeah,
it's a bit like Walter.
Origin. And then as soon as he's seen the capabilities of the vault and the loot and blah blah blah, he just became obsessed with it. And he would do anything to get to that place of power. For example, using his daughter for her powers. It's just stuff like that. There's probably quite a few characters, but I can't think of any more off the top of my head. But it is really interesting, I find.
Yeah.
Seeing how far a character will go just to achieve this one thing.
Yeah. My next one is one I held dearly to me when I was really young. Is Uncontrollable Rage or Uncontrollable Power with a character. So, for example, I think Super Saiyan's like the most famous of these, but mine's Super Saiyan 2 Gohan, in which he just sees his mate's head crushed and he loses his shit, and he gets like a massive power boost, and he just wrecks everybody's shit. He's like furious. You've got Gon from Hunter x Hunter, who literally spiteful and within range decides, you know what, I'm gonna curse myself with power, which means he's basically given up his life, his power to become like a disabled fucking thing, just so he gets strong enough to beat the shit out of the person that's killed his best friend, his childhood friend. You've got Aang, who there's points in the shows where he'll get in an uncontrollable power state, or I think Rage sometimes. He'll get put into a thing called Avatar state. So that's when his like eyes glow and his like wee arrow start glowing as well. That's the Avatar state. So that's he gets all this like sort of Avatar power and shit, and he just goes off the bar. So like in the end of book 1, this power allows him to become like a gigantic like avatar of water. Like he's just humongous. And it's so sick to see. You've got Brock Sampson from Venture Bros, which is like it's very unlike the other ones where I'm talking about, where he's just a well trained military man who gets into these states of rage. Like somebody could like spill something on him, and they'll say, "Oh, I'm sorry, mate," and he'll just go full on, "I'm going to fucking kill you," in Patrick Warburton voice. "I'm going to fucking kill you. Do you know what you fucking did?" There's literally points in the show where he's so gets in such a rage, and he's quite strong and shit. Like he got released into space, and out of spite, he fucking started like doing this like a breaststroke in space to get back into it. He's like choking and shit, and starts beating the shit out of every cunt. Like he uses this like sort of like big like a knife that you'd see people use in the rainforest alongside a machete, with the wee ridges. He's just a really cool character. He gets into the rages a lot. I think that's like a cool thing about him. And that's why I like uncontrollable like powers and rage, because it just brings a whole new side to a character that it might not have already. So like
Yeah.
I was saying with Gohan, he's this character who's apparently supposed to be really kind, smart, and that, but then if you push him over the edge, there's no mercy.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a really interesting. I think like I suppose Hulk can be put into that category, but it's a very different sort of category.
Yeah.
You make Bruce Banner angry, he involuntarily changes into Hulk, which is a different character altogether. It's still sort of him, but like
Yeah.
that's uncontrollable power and rage. He's like the epitome of that, actually.
Yeah.
Now that I think about it, probably more famous than Super Saiyan.
Yeah, it's a good one. I think I've seen it a couple times here and there,
Yeah.
And there's always that tie with like revenge of whether something's just happened to that character, so then they lose it,
Yeah. So, well, I suppose an example of that would also be in Civil War with Iron Man. Like, he has no reason to
Yeah.
be losing his ship, but the minute he's seen that the person that's responsible for his parents' death, even though he had no control of it, he wants to kill Bucky.
Emotions.
Yeah. It fuels a scene. It gives impact to the audience, I feel.
Oh yeah, it really does, because it throws a lot of the thinking that if they were to like calm down and then think about it, it'd be completely different. But
Yeah.
it's uncontrollable, isn't it?
Yeah.
Pretty decent. My last two are pretty popular ones actually, and thinking about all the ones that I'm mentioning, actually, I enjoy all of them. But yeah, the next one I'm going to say is Foreshadowing. Very, very popular trope. It's in tons of things. And you get the ones that are like really small nods to something. For example, in like Back to the Future, I remember seeing there's stuff littered in that. For example, like I can't remember. I think in the background of like one of the scenes, you can see like a small like clock tower thing, and it's got a wee cutout of your man hanging off of hanging off of it, which is obviously a nod to how the first one finishes. Just something small like that, or you can get the more like out there ones. So, for example, in Doctor Who, which you've mentioned a couple of times already, the first season since the reboot, there was the whole bad wolf thing. And they really played on that foreshadowing being part of the story. They made it prominent that you were to see this, And so they littered the name Bad Wolf throughout wherever they were going. So, for example, if there was a place called like Bad Wolf Corporations, or if there was like graffiti somewhere with Bad Wolf in it, and then the Doctor himself, he'd be like, "Why is that appearing everywhere? What is this?" And it leads to the finale.
Yeah,
it's great. Stuff like that. Even in like a popular one in Dark Knight is the famous Harvey Dent quote: "You either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain." Which is fantastic. So absolutely.
Is that did Batman become like the villain at like, or when did Harvey Dent say this? Was this before he turned Two-Face?
That was before he turned Two-Face.
Okay, that makes more sense. I don't know why I was thinking he was saying that as Two-Face the Batman. I'm like, did he do something in Dark Knight Rises or something? Before. But no, it's been a long time since I've seen these films. Probably like since I was about 10 years since I've seen these. Christ, I call myself a Batman fan.
But yeah, that's a big quote. and obviously, yeah, he turns into Two-Face and he becomes this villain, right?
Yeah.
Even in like Cornetto trilogy, there's tons later in Cornetto trilogy. I remember seeing like an article or stuff like that, or even like a video where it was like going through all of the small stuff that they had littered throughout it. And I mean, like, there's tons in that, and
Yeah.
it really makes if you can catch it on your first watch through, you can it gives you like a bit of insight, obviously, but it really makes a second watch through, or like, you know, a third watch through or whatever. It makes it that much more almost enjoyable when you start spotting these things, because you know how it
Yeah.
ends and stuff. So it just adds another level to it, I think.
Foreshadowing is like one of my most favorite tropes, actually, now that I think about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I did a video on it on my channel. It's talking about the world of One Piece, and the last thing I talk about in it is it's mad for foreshadowing. Like I mentioned, like there could be something foreshadowed like 400 chapters prior to it being explained, and
That's ridiculous.
it goes really into depth, and the man's memory for that sort of shit. Like viewers and readers now are reading every chapter, expecting something in that chapter to happen in the future. Now, that's how much foreshadowing plays into that series, and it's
Crazy.
why I always it's what got me to enjoy foreshadowing in any other given media I like. It's just you like seeing these little small things. And you're like, oh, look at that. It's great.
So what's your? Have you got one more?
I've got one last one. It's my love-hate relationship with this trope is Deus Ex Machinas, and
Oh yeah.
I'm pretty sure it means it's God made machines or God man machines or something like that. It's God machines,
Yeah.
hence Deus in Machina. But it's basically like meaning like it's the writer is just inputted something into like the said story, and it's just come out of nowhere, absolutely nowhere, blindsided like the audience and viewer. Just like it's like the opposite of foreshadowing, complete opposite. It's literally grabbing something and being like exposition, or oh no, the main character's about to die. Some guy flies out of nowhere, a fucking like a flying bat, and it grabs him. It just comes out of nowhere.
Yeah.
It's a story plot device basically to save the main character or whatever situation you're in.
Yeah.
So like in Jurassic Park at the very end, so they're in the big main room, the big T-Rex skeleton at the
Yep.
entrance of the place, and the Velociraptors are all coming in and enclosing on the survivors, last characters. Can't remember the names now. The kids and the Alan Grant and the bird. I think it was the bird. But it was they were coming at him, and out of absolutely fucking nowhere, the T-Rex doesn't even make a noise. It just comes out of nowhere. It just grabs the Velociraptor, kills it, and then starts killing the other ones. And Alan Grant and co are just like, "Let's get the fuck out of here." You've got the serum that makes well, there's other examples of like Deus Ex Machinas. So like they're sort of opposites. Like they're known as the what was it, Devil Ex Machinas or Devil's Advocate Machinas, and it's so like the serum that makes Caesar smart ends up being lethal to humans. There's absolutely no reason that should be like a thing in the movies that makes humans like lethal, like they're deadly to humans, but it is because it's like, why not just fuck this world up even further. You've got The Walking Dead as a big example of this, like just absolutely nowhere. Like Robert Kirkman says, is the best point is to just throw something randomly into the air to do something bad to the main characters. Out like it makes no sense for it. Has no prior mentioning of this going to be happening or risks. It'll just happen. Like Rick getting his hand cut off. You got Carl in the eye. You got Carl's getting shot in general. It's just everybody getting shot. Spider-Man is like a big pinpoint for this. Like I think there's a story, I haven't read it yet, but there's a story where out of nowhere, I can't mind his name, but basically the devil's like, yo, your Aunt May is dying. I'll make you a deal to let her live as long as I completely erase you and Mayor Jane's marriage and your child from your life. And he just accepts it. And there's shit like there could be literally a point where he's lost somebody's died to a villain. He's took down that villain. he comes back home, tries to rest, and he gets a letter through the door saying, "Oh, you're getting evicted." It's like just shitting on fucking Peter. Another example of Deus Ex Machina would be like Captain Marvel at the end of Endgame. She just went AWOL since the beginning of the film, and then out absolutely nowhere when like all the superheroes and that are like on the ground. Oh no, they're about to shoot us with their big fucking fuck off Thanos ship, Thanos copter, mate. And then Captain Marvel just comes out of nowhere like a meteor and just crashes through it. Absolutely no like foreshadowing or explanation to where she's been. She's been up in the orbit waiting this entire
Just
time.
appears.
But I do like Deus Ex Machinas. Like there's certain ones like I think a lot of people like Lord of the Rings, and that has a Deus Ex Machina in it that people don't talk too much about it, but they know it's a Deus Ex Machina.
Yeah.
I think it's something to do with like a bird that comes and saves them, but they don't do anything with it or something. But like Deus Ex Machinas tend to happen in a lot of big blockbuster movies or modern movies, and like sometimes you can like let them be, but there's other times you're like, no, it just takes you out of like the experience. There's some things that are convenient, and there's some things that are too convenient.
Yeah, I can see why you'd have a love-hate relationship with them, because sometimes they make it obvious that there's going to be something coming. You're just like, oh, what's going to save them now? You know?
Like horror movies. Oh no, the music's getting more shrill, and the person's about to go through a door. I wonder what's going to happen. American Psycho music starts playing. But I wish I had more examples for Deus Ex Machinas.
There will be tons. It's just
there'll be tons. It's just such a varied thing.
Go digging for them, you know.
I think it's just explaining. It's a trope I don't like.
Mm-hmm.
But that wraps me up. If you want to continue with your last one.
Yes. So my last one, as I said, is also a quite popular one, and it's Flashbacks. I think I very much enjoy when flashbacks are used. So, for example, you know, you've got I think Lost. I think the TV show Lost was very, very prominent for using it, like a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And similar to love triangles, you get a lot of different types of flashbacks, right? So there's different variations. You get like the ones that are parallel. So the flashback is parallel to something that's happening in the current time. For example, you know, you've got your the Ratatouille one, right?
Oh my god.
Where is it Inspector or something like that comes in
it's
to taste the food.
The critic.
Critic, that's it. Aye. Critic comes in, tastes the food, and as soon as he gets like a mouthful of it, his eyes open and it like zooms in and it flashbacks to when he was a child. Like a fond memory of his when he was a child and his mum was making food for him. So yeah, that's one example as well. Which is it's pretty good. It's pretty good when you get stuff like that. I also remember. I've been currently watching Prison Break again, and that's quite. That uses it quite a lot of the time. They use it in a different way in terms of like. They use it to sort of explain, give a bit of backstory to what's happening.
Yeah.
So because the part of the story is obviously Michael's covered in tattoos, which he's purposely put in his body to try and help escape. So as he's going through the different steps of breaking out, it zooms into like a point in the tattoo, and then it does a flashback to how he was like setting that up and how he's finding out the information of all of this stuff, you know. So yeah, it's used in a lot of things. I think even games. For example, the new Star Wars game that came out, Fallen Order. It uses it quite well in terms of like if you're to learn like a new move or a new skill or something like that, it will do a flashback to when your character was training.
That's sick.
Which is it's a nice way to like actually involve training into the thing. because you know how you get some games like, say, COD, right? Like you get the COD where it's like at the start of Modern Warfare 2 or any of the previous ones, and you're at the shooting range, and it's like, all right, soldier, press left trigger to aim in. You know, it just runs through the controls that way. But it's nice to see it being used in a story format with the flashbacks.
Yeah.
Like another one, for example, Ghost of Tsushima, which has recently came out. That uses it in a very similar way, where it's the flashback is to when he was a kid getting trained. So it uses that to just, you know, let you get used to the controls, how to combat in the game. It's a cool way to use it. There's definitely many ways.
I also
those are the
do like flashbacks, but there's a series that's very bad for it. One you'll have no clue about it. It's named Naruto, and eventually, when I got through to part 2 of the series, almost every episode would have a 5-minute flashback to it in the episode you'd already seen.
5 minutes? Oh boy.
So you're sat there like seeing a recap of an episode you've already watched before, and you're like, I love this. And it eventually got to a point where half an episode could be a flashback to multiple other episodes, and you're like, which isn't to say that it doesn't have good flashbacks, like actual like new stuff you haven't seen before, like a character that you've always seen as an adult who's now a kid. You're getting a flashback to when he was a kid. That's cool and all, but recap flashbacks are
they're annoying.
Bye.
You kind of get those, although it's not quite flashbacks. You kind of get those in certain shows, and it's like previously on this, and just recap it. I don't care. Please skip.
You look at Netflix, it's like skip recap.
Yeah, exactly. I'll tell you what, though, one of the best flashbacks you'll ever get is from Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and it's the flashbacks of Holt in the 70s.
Oh my god, yes.
With his stash and the afro, it's glorious.
You got the Guardians of the Galaxy 2 flashback, so that's the thing, like, it starts off as a flashback.
Oh, yeah.
So can it be counted as a flashback, or is it just... Because it's not like
I
somebody's
guess.
like, no, it goes into a flashback. It starts off them driving in the car. But it's not quite
It's more of like a pre-something, or whatever.
It gives context to what that's foreshadowing and all. Literally him, oh yeah, I dropped off these things on Earth, these little plants. And even though it's foreshadowing, it's one of the worst foreshadowing, because you're sat there like, yeah, he's evil. There's no way he's good. No. No. You think he's just leaving these things, and he's talking to Earth, yeah, I'm a powerful being, and I'm a planet, and I'm like...
I'm a planet.
Bye. I think... Does that finish us off for... Yeah, that finishes off
yes,
for Tropes.
It does.
And brings us on to General Top, which we'll start with our favourite antagonists. Before we list them off, to elaborate on antagonist, it isn't necessarily a word used for villains or bad people, but it is the word used for a character that opposes the main character, the protagonist. So, like, even though you got Thanos as the antagonist, just because he's the villain doesn't make him the antagonist. So, like, Megamind, he's the protagonist of his film, though he's a villain. You've got Civil War. Tony Stark is a hero, yet he's the antagonist of that film. It isn't branded that all villains are antagonists and all antagonists are villains. It's neither. Most of the time, a villain is an antagonist. I'll give you that, but not 100%.
No, yeah, the odd ones.
The elaboration of that. And would you like to start us off?
Yeah, sure. And I will start off with Loki from Thor, obviously. Yeah, I feel like a lot of it's down to both just the characters themselves and the fact that Tom Hiddleston did like a fantastic job of playing him. But he's very, I think he's the main antagonist of the first Thor.
Yes. And
then in like bits of the other ones, he's sort of like secondary antagonist. He's always there about.
I think in the third one, he's weird because you can class him as an antagonist or what's the other word for him? Like a duotrogonist or something. It's like basically like a third or secondary character
Ah,
to the main character. They're not pivotal, but they're there.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I feel like I've got to mention him, because he's very. What makes him great as well is he's very devious. He's very, almost the opposite of
Wasn't
Thor.
is he the god of trickery or why have I forgotten what he's the god of? Is he the god of trickery? Is it chaos?
Yeah, god of trickery or something like that. Because obviously
Mischief.
in mischief, yeah. In Supernatural, the character Loki in that is like tied with the trickster, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, it can kind of count for that as well. But I'm mostly talking about the one from
Lawface and from
the
the
MCU.
Marvel in general as well, just MCU specifically.
But I think he's very good, and I enjoy his humor as well. Some of the stuff he says and does.
He's also the antagonist in Avengers.
Yes, he is.
He's the main antagonist of Avengers, yeah. He gets a lot of his good moments in that one.
I think he's quite a loved one in general.
I think, not to stick a bunch of people together, but I think he's like the character that like that fangirls for MCU all go for. Like, there's something about him that attracts all the fangirls.
You're not wrong.
I don't think I'm wrong.
What's your first one then?
My first one is probably going to be the last Japanese thing, hopefully, is a character called Meruem, and he's not human. To give like a brief introduction to what he's a creature. He's an anthropomorphic animal, as in he is human-like. He is a chimera ant, which is a special type of ant through which whatever they eat, right, the queen will eat something and it will give birth and make a hybrid of whatever it is eaten. So through many generations of breeding, this character called Meruem is made, and he's the king, and he is just insanely strong, like Thanos levels of strong. Well, not Thanos, but like that he gives off Thanos vibes of like you can't beat this cunt. He not in a 1v1. And you see that in his fights and all that, and he's like this green character. He's got a green color scheme, and the whole point of him is he starts off as very like he doesn't give a shit about anything. He knows he's the king. He's gonna go capture some territory and that. His first introduction to a human is walking up to a little girl on a farm, and he asks one of his minions like, "Did you say the brain was the tastiest part of the human body?" And the minion's like, "Yes, I believe so." So he takes his tail up and whips the little girl's head off, smashes it, picks up the brain, and he's like, doesn't taste that good. So you can already tell this guy's not a good person. He isn't there to be like some benevolent king of the humans. He's there to make humans livestock. That's a quote he made to a king that was trying to talk him down. He's like, do you think cows? Do you think you care for cows when you make them livestock? So why should we care if we make you livestock? And that was something that always like pinged off for me. And then as his arc continues, he starts becoming more human-like when he meets a shogi player, which is Japanese chess, and he starts getting beat at it because the whole point of his character is that he's the physically strongest thing we've seen. Nobody can beat him, but he for some reason can't win in a mental fight of shogi of chess.
Chesh.
And you start seeing that he can learn humility. He starts becoming a good person. He becomes more human, and that really like comes out to us. Like the minute she's hurt, he goes mental, and as there's a parallel as well as the main character of the series starts becoming more monster-like. So there's a good parallel between the two there, and that's why I like him as an antagonist. And he eventually dies of poisoning rather than somebody like beating him to death or fighting him and he loses. No, he dies of other means. And it's just, I think it was a good way to end his character that he died the most human-like of the cast that we see, even though he was born a fucking monster. So that's why I really like him as an antagonist. One of my favorites. Really well done. And leads me on to asking what your next one is.
Yeah. You sort of sounded like you were doing an impression of Sean Connery saying chess. We like to have some chess.
Sean Connery.
My next one. It's Negan. I've mentioned Negan before.
Oh.
Negan from The Walking Dead, and yeah, both. This counts for both the comic and the show, because Jeffrey Dean Morgan did a fantastic job. Absolutely top stuff. But
Absolutely.
yeah, there's just something about him that's so likable, you know. But yeah, I think what's interesting about him being an antagonist is he's one of those characters who believes he is the one in the right.
Yeah.
You know, like he's not purposely trying to be evil or
Mhm.
any of that sort of stuff, you know. But he's he's essentially this leader, right? He's taken this position as like a leader and the sort of controller of all these different areas. So anyone that tries to step to him in any way and like disobeys, because he's trying to keep it like quite strict, then he'll do drastic means to sort of cement his position in power. And just the way he acts about everything, you know, he's kind of got like a loosey goosey fucking vibe to him. Do you know what I mean?
Swears. He swears a lot.
Constantly swears.
Like they had to like censor or get rid of it in the show, but you mind his swear? Can you remember it in the comic?
Oh, there's quite a lot.
It's a very simple quote.
What was it? Again.
Fuck, fuckity, fucking, fuckity, fuck!
Oh yeah, yeah, top stuff. Just everything. Like a lot of it's down to like I think to start with, people will dislike the character, but as they grow to like understand,
he had a powerful introduction as well.
He did. He really did. And that's what I was on about. He sort of tries to cement this power just to make sure people know he is the leader.
Like he won't take shit. Like he'll give you a chance. He'll give you a good life if you work for it. But if you fuck up bad. You'll face consequences of his might or his wrath. Thing is, before I seen him in the show, when I read the comics, I always imagined him being voiced by Patrick Warburton. So he's just like, Rick, come on, old pal. We can come to some sort of understanding. Peter.
See, in a different perspective, Negan is actually the protagonist, and it's Rick and the gang that's the antagonist.
Yeah, because like to him, they just came up and just killed all his men, and he's like, "Wait, what?"
Yeah.
Even though his men were absolute cunts.
You know, what was it in Karate Kid? There was a whole thing in How I Met Your Mother, and that Barney, his whole like view of Karate Kid is that it's what was it? Ralph is who is like this good guy, and obviously he's the one that does the crane kick in the end. He's not actually the protagonist; he's the antagonist, and he's doing everything to like.
Did you say Ralph?
Ralph, I think.
Is it not Daniel?
Is it Daniel? Ralph is his actual name then.
I have no idea. I've seen the films. I really like the films. I cannot remember any of their names. It's Daniel LaRusso. He's played by Ralph Macchio. I see what you mean.
Yeah, I'm mixing up the real name and the film.
The
it's been so long since I've seen the film.
You like the film?
Oh yeah.
Well, here's the thing. Have you heard about the Cobra Kai stuff that's been coming out?
I see. It's recently added to Netflix, isn't it?
That's literally what the whole Barney thing is about. Yeah, the protagonist of that show is the antagonist of Karate Kid. So it's like flipping it.
Off that.
It's actually quite good. I was watching it with my brother. It was actually quite good. So if you ever want to watch it, I'd be keen to rewatch it with you.
That sounds good.
It's always like it's the same like as I was saying with Civil War. Like if you flip Iron Man on his head, like some people actually think Iron Man was well, I think the opinion of the person's perspectives differs. Like I think Captain America was in the right the entire time, whereas
Right.
some people I know will think Iron Man was in the right. So like who's the protagonist and what's not? It's
Yeah.
just who's in right and wrong. It's very like debatable.
That view.
That's a bit more on the line where else like you
Mhm.
may think that Negan is his own protagonist, but his ways of doing things are very
Oh
villain
yeah,
like.
definitely.
Definitely should correct them.
So what's next on your list?
My
Keep
next
going.
one is from a very underrated Disney film that flopped, Treasure Planet, and it's the character Long John Silver. And we don't know he's an antagonist until about a good halfway through the film, and
Mhm.
he's the cyborg that Jim meets, the main character, and Jim is foretold of this character who's a cyborg. He's the one that's after this treasure, and then he goes on the ship and finds out there's a cyborg on the ship, and he automatically assumes that this should be the cyborg, of which he learns this there's more to this cyborg. He's really nice. He's the cook. He's really good at using his
Mhm.
cyborg arm. He's just he's just got this swashbuckling like, "Hey Jimbo," sort of like attitude to him, and he's like really likable. But then, of course, it gets to the point in the film where he's revealed like he flips the switch. He's still the same like personality, but he's now the bad guy. He's the antagonist to Jim, and I just really like him. I like his like generosity. He's a bit like a fat. He's an alien. He's not really human. Well, I say he's
Mhm.
not really human. He's definitely alien. Like the way he like maneuvers and he's skillful, and his crew do fear him. And it's a bit like and how his character arc ends is really good as well. Like he ends up joining Jimbo and like trying to survive at the end of the film, but like the general antagonist of said film is him, and I really liked Long John Silver. That's all there really is to say about him.
Mhm.
Like I think the whole point of his character was that he just wants treasure. He just wants money, as a pirate would. That's him done. How about you?
Right.
Another from yourself?
I am going to mention Glados from the Portal games.
Potato.
There's something about Glados I think is really cool. Just like
Definitely.
both the design, the whole design of like this robot character, and the voice is very iconic as well as you're like progressing through levels and stuff.
Oh
Um,
my.
yeah, it's very well known, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, obviously, GLaDOS is the antagonist because she's essentially like got you trapped, in just this facility place. So
Aperture.
she's making you capture for something, yeah, and she is like making you do tests on these courses essentially,
Mm-hmm.
which are in the game it's the actual missions, um, but yeah, like that. I think it's very good, because in two, I love the story for Portal 2.
Yeah.
Obviously you've got your sidekick Wheatley.
Oh my
Um,
god.
so you
Stephen
start like
Merchant.
you start plotting your way out to try and like escape past GLaDOS and all that, and yeah, it's very good. It's an interesting one as well because obviously, uh, in the end, a bit of a spoiler if you haven't played Portal 2, but the game's been out for so long now.
10 years
But
now.
yeah, jeez, so crazy. So essentially you finally get to the bit where like GLaDOS is kept, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you do this whole thing. You pull GLaDOS out of the machine and you put Wheatley in, only to
Yeah.
discover Wheatley is far worse in control than GLaDOS ever
Unmanageable.
was. Yeah, and that's when GLaDOS turns into a fucking potato. uh,
You can make
but yeah,
GLaDOS vodka.
it's great. It's obviously you start teaming up with GLaDOS to then take Wheatley back out of power.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great story. It's a great story. It's a great antagonist.
Like, even at the end of the story, she's still the antagonist. She's like, I'm giving you this chance to leave now. If you fucking stay, I'll fucking fuck you up. Sort of
Yeah,
attitude. It's like, I don't want you here
yeah.
anymore. Just fuck off.
So what's next on your list?
Next in my list is very, I wouldn't say underrated, but like, he hasn't got the best representation of what he should be and how he should be portrayed. Is Mr. Freeze from DC.
Ah,
And
yes.
he's a bit of an anti-villain. He's got very sympathetic means to which he does stuff. He doesn't go after like innocents and that.
Mm.
And as I was saying, he hasn't been portrayed properly because for some reason back in the fucking 80s, he was played by your man Arnie Schwarzenegger, to
Nah,
play
that's
Mr.
the best
Freeze.
performance.
I will fucking end you. It was horrible puns. I'm getting demotivated just
Freeze.
for fucking speaking about it. But the reason I like Mr. Freeze so much as a DC villain is there's so many DC, like pretty much all of the popular Batman rogues I like a lot. Like they're really good villains, or really good antagonists. But Mr. Freeze has such a good backstory. His actual name is Victor Freeze. It's spelt
All
like
right.
fries, so it's like a German name, I believe.
I see.
I don't know if it's actually German, but it's definitely a foreign name. And the whole thing with him is he worked at a facility. I can't quite remember the facility's name. It's definitely not Ace Chemicals, but he worked at a facility. He found out his wife has contracted a disease that he cannot cure as of now. So he Walt Disney's her, puts her up in some cryogenic chamber, freezes her. So getting ready to find a cure for taking years. Obviously, freezing her will keep her maintained in that state until he finds a cure. But he gets fired basically, and is told to unplug her and to get the fuck out. But in a case of like agitation and not wanting to leave, he's being dragged out. He accidentally, like, because of a malfunction in the machines, everything like starts exploding and releasing cryogenic uh, substances and stuff, and it affects him to the point where he becomes this literal ice person who cannot live without being in a state of sub-zero temperatures, I think. So he's
Mm-hmm.
constantly in this suit, like a big like fishbowl suit. He's always covered in like cold stuff. He manufactured his own like cold gun that he freezes stuff with. Basically, if you like take him out of his suit, within probably an hour he'll die from like insufficient temperature and stuff like that. But the whole thing with him is he's an anti-villain because he goes after means of curing his wife, but in such a horrible way. So like he'll break into places, he'll attack people for stuff, but not like kill them, not meaning to hurt them like
Yeah.
specifically. And but Batman of course takes him down, and he always makes this promise like, if you give her to me, I can cure her. But he's like, no, it is my job and my job alone. And you just like feel so sympathetic for like this man. He's been
Mm-hmm.
affected physiologically. He's fucked up. He could try and cure himself, but his mind is always on Nora, his wife. I feel that's touching. But
Mm-hmm.
then you get like the New 52 reboot, where he's now just somebody who's insane who thinks that Nora is his wife, which apparently isn't now. But I always looked at that. There's a cartoon episode for this, and a special that you can watch where it
Aye.
goes over this. But I just think it's a really endearing story. I also love his voice because he speaks like this. Batman, I must save my wife. The other part of his physiology is that he cannot age. That's the other thing that's been altered. So in
Oh.
Batman Beyond, the show, he's now just a head. He's a living head. He hasn't aged. And he eventually dies. He chooses to die because he's like, well, Nora no longer exists. I'm not wanting to be a villain, so he just chose to die.
Interesting.
Yeah. That wraps. That finishes me off in Mr. Freeze. Another one from yourself.
Aye. So I was thinking about Star Wars and some of the antagonists from that. You've got a few. You've got a few that are great as well. Obviously, the much well known Darth Vader. But I feel like I'm gonna pick Kylo Ren, actually.
Aye.
Obviously, there's a lot of dislike towards the new trilogy,
Mhm.
and like fans just bicker all the time about this and that and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But I think one thing quite a fair few people enjoy is Kylo Ren,
Mhm.
and the portrayal by Adam Driver, I think, was great. Like his
Oh
actual
yeah.
performance throughout the whole thing was fantastic. And you even see like Adam Driver in Black Klansman, and other stuff. He's a top actor.
Yeah.
So yeah, Kylo Ren. What's cool about Kylo Ren as well is like he's quite a conflicted, like very raw character.
Mhm.
So he doesn't know quite what to do in terms of like controlling his. He gets a bit rage, doesn't he?
Yeah.
There's times he's got uncontrollable
I
rage,
think there's
but
like two instances of that. Like there's I don't know if it's in the first one, but when he like starts taking his lightsaber to the control board, and the two
yeah,
stormtroopers like walk in and then walk back out for
they're
comic
like nope.
relief. Nope. Not today.
But yeah, because Kylo Ren obviously started out as Ben Solo, who is like he was getting trained to be a Jedi, and the whole like what made him become Kylo Ren was this like for a lot of characters, for a lot of people like who are becoming Jedi's, they're learning the way of the Force and whatnot. A lot of their masters will be like, you don't want to go into the dark side, no matter how tempting it is, because it kind of pulls you in a bit, and the deeper you look into it, the more you'll get sucked in. And yeah, Kylo Ren was one of those that sort of started going that way, and obviously Luke started seeing it, and he was like, "Oh, no, can't be having this." But yeah, just his whole he became evil. He became one of the Knights of Ren through training of Snoke and all that. Snoke and the
Yeah.
boys. So and it was great as well because his lightsaber, right? His lightsaber's got kind of like a jaggedness to it, like the actual light itself. It's very jagged to sort of symbolize, his sort of
Didn't his like Kraber crystal or
raw
whatever it is,
uncontrollableness
but
that
it
he
was like
has.
sort of like fractured. So we had his lightsaber manufactured in a way that releases like the extra energy to the almost like a guard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
But as you said, it's like symbolism for that. Yeah, I can see that.
yeah. There's a fair bit of symbolism in that trilogy with Kylo Ren as well, because obviously he, in one of those uncontrollable moments, he breaks his mask, and there's another point where they sort of glued it together, so it's like all cracked and that, just to further show that he himself is a bit of a broken person.
Yeah, I think he's out of the trilogy. He's the most consistently written and well written. I would believe, which is probably why he's
Yes.
such a good character from what's considered a bad trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
Like
He would fall under your. He would fall under the redemption arc.
yes, he would. Obviously, like he doesn't affect me that much because I'm not like a big Star Wars fan to begin with. So like I
Yeah.
like his character in general, but he's obviously not affected me that much that I could include him.
Uh,
And if I did, that'd be taken away from your list. But like, I really do appreciate like his character as well. Mostly, it's just Adam Driver's like performance. Well, I feel like if it was anybody else, see if it was just some handsome person doing it, I don't think you'd feel it's good because
yeah.
like Adam Driver isn't conventionally handsome. He's not ugly. He's just an
No.
average looking person.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why it's so endearing that he was a normal guy who was born from Han and Leia. He's a Skywalker. He's a Solo. He's got the Force. He was never supposed to fall into the dark side, yet he did, and he needs to find his own path by the end of the trilogy.
He's quite tall as well, isn't he?
I I keep hearing this. I don't know exactly how tall he
I
is.
think he's tall. I'm gonna search
Was he
just
not
now.
6'2" or something?
Must be.
Oh, he's already in
I
my
mean, like,
bloody 6'2". He was already in my search
it's.
history.
How was he? 6'2".
Yeah.
Yeah, that's quite tall, especially for like Hollywood actors.
Yeah.
And part of his height is sort of shown in his stance. The way he stands is quite like spread apart in terms of like his legs, his arms, and he's kind of got like a bit of a hunch to him, which gives off this menacing look to him.
Yeah.
So yeah, just sort of adds to his evilness, I guess, in one way.
My God, I'm seeing pictures of him. He's making these fucking guys look tiny, even though he's only 6'2". Like, he's tall, but he's not super tall. Like, he's 2 inches taller than I am, but he's making these people look like
Have you
midgets.
got one more?
I have 2 more.
Oh, you have 2 more.
I have Carnage, which I was thinking about it like yesterday, which I had already finished my notes a few days prior, but I was thinking about it as like Green Goblin could also fall into the category for one of my favorite antagonists from Marvel,
Alright.
as well as Doctor Octopus. But like, what I like about Carnage and Green Goblin is that they're both very Joker-like. Like Green Goblin's got that like chaotic, like you don't know what he's gonna do. His color scheme's the same as well. He's purple and green. Like, and I like Green Goblin because he's a fucked up character in the sense that Norman Osborn, he was a normal person, and as a scientist, he ends up causing himself to go insane using basically the same serum in the comics that like Captain America went through. Spider-Man basically went through that sort of like serum that made him like superhuman. But while it made him superhuman, it affected his psyche so badly that he couldn't go back to being a normal person. He was forever fucked in the head. But Carnage is like definitely fucking Marvel's way of being like, we can do Joker too. And it's basically Venom, if it was by a serial killer, red-headed serial killer, and the symbiote is red instead of black. He's really sleek, he's really cool. He uses symbiotes is known for being able to like make their body more malleable, like they can create like an axe out of their hand, or like they can be elongated and stuff like that. Carnage makes the most out of that. Like, it's a really unique way of seeing a character fight. He's physically stronger than Venom too, I believe. But the most interesting thing about him, of course, is his host, Cletus Cassidy. He is a serial killer who was known for pushing his grandmother down the stairs because he felt like it. He murdered many people, and the only reason he even became Carnage is because he was cellmates with Eddie Brock, who was Venom. And of course, Venom birthed Carnage, which attached itself to Cletus. And Cletus just took it, like, in arms. His insanity would just automatically clicked with the symbiote and went, yeah, baby, time to kill. I'm like, it's just interesting. He just I think it's just mostly his design. Like, there's nothing complex about him. It's not quite like Joker levels of like he brings a chaotic meaning to the world. He doesn't bring that much of a meaning to the world. Like, most of the time, he's just defeated by Spider-Man and Venom and stuff. But I just really like Cletus Cassidy. I like how he looks. He's sleek. Maybe it's just like the connotations of him being very Joker-like is why I like him.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's why I like Carnage. Like, even just his catchphrase, I hope I get this right, is maximum carnage, and he just kills folk. That's all he does.
I feel like you would include Joker, but obviously since episode 6, when we mentioned the favorite fictional characters, we wanted to talk about more than just the same characters. It's the same for me. Like, I would involve like Handsome Jack, but I've already spoken about him previously. So my last one's also from a game, and it's Vaz. I think it's Vaz. That's how you say it, or Vas. From Far Cry 3. Now I never played I don't think I played the first Far Cry or the second one. So it was the third one that got me into the series. And it was the third one that like made me like love the series. I've played the rest of them since. But yeah, Vass is such a character. Very much loved, and I think he's part of the reason why Far Cry 3 became so big. you know,
Mm-hmm.
and he's very much like quite a psychopath type character, right? He's such a lunatic. He's so just like raw, if you know what I mean. Like there's nothing that he will not do in many ways. So obviously the point of the game is like you, if I can remember this correctly, because it's been so long since I played it. Even though I need to play the Far Cry 3 Classic Edition that's on PS4.
Mm-hmm.
I need to replay that just to remind myself. But yeah, it starts off obviously you. I think it's you, your brother, and like maybe two others. You like essentially end up getting like washed up on this island, and you get like captured essentially by this sort of gang that runs the island, and Vass is the main leader. So the whole introduction to Vass and some of the quotes he says, I can't remember them off the top of my head, but you know, just the way he acts and the way he does things is um, very cool, I think. Um, but yeah,
I would always see
um,
him in like top 10 lists for like not Watch Mojo or other things, like
mhm.
top 10 psychopaths, and it'll be like Vaz number 5 or something like that.
Yeah,
He's quite popular.
he's definitely a big one.
It's sort of
Um,
forgotten now, but when he was around, when he was relevant, he was quite popular.
yeah, um, I was thinking of including Pin Far Cry 4. It was also fantastic, by the way. I
Oh
remember when that
yeah,
game came out.
I quite
Obviously,
liked him.
a lot of people had high expectations because of how good Vaz was.
Mm-hmm.
So people already like just uh,
Pedestal.
put this, yeah, put this pedestal out there, and they're like, he's not as good, he's not as good, but he's still very good, big and win. But yeah, I think for me, I think a lot of it's down to a bit of nostalgia as well. So I'm gonna pick Vaz. But
Okay.
I need to play through the game again because
Uh,
it's top stuff.
aye, my last one is Lord Loss. He's the antagonist from the Demonata books written by Darren Shan. Quite like them. I think he appeared in every single one of the books. And Lord Loss is a demon from a dimension. Like the whole aspect of Demonata is these demons that you see that come up and about and stuff like this. These monsters, they're not from hell. They're not from a singular place. There's these multiple like dimensions that you can go to if you've got like a skilled enough mage who can teleport you and make portals and stuff. But Lord Lost belongs to this dimension that's eerily close to hell in the aspect that it's red, but everything's made of flesh. So it's like awful and gangly, and he himself is like this humanoid figure, but he has no legs. What instead of his legs are these strands of flesh, mangled flesh, and they're like sort of like stripes of flesh. Lead up to holes that are filled with snakes and serpents and all that sort of shit. He has no nose. I think one of his eyes melted over. It's very descriptive of what he's like. He has bony hands and stuff. His fingernails are fucked up. And his introductory to us is he meets the main character Grubs, and Grubs is just a normal boy. He's just a completely normal boy, and out of
Mm.
nowhere, this character Lord Lost introduces himself like, "Oh yeah, I've just killed your da and your ma and your little sister here. Like yeah, here there's corpses right there. One's torn in half, one's on the floor, decapitated. Um, I'm gonna kill you too. I might as well just chat to you for a bit, terrify you, because his whole deal is that he loves hungering on folks of fear and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But near the end of the first book, the main character is supposed to challenge Lord Lost to a game of chess. That's Lord Lost's whole deal is that you can summon him. So like in Supernatural, you got the Crossway demons, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Lord Lost, you can summon him, which you really shouldn't because he's a completely powerful being and you don't want to fuck with him. But you can make a deal with him that he can do some things for you if you beat him at a game of chess. So the whole deal is Grubs wants his mate who's going through lycanthropy, so he's a werewolf, but not like the general werewolf. He'll turn into a werewolf, and he's permanently like that. So he's get challenged to a chess match, and I like the whole deal of Lord Loss. He's just like fleshy, fucked up individual. He's from a powerful dimension. He has these minions, and his whole shtick with deals is that he plays chess with the main character. It's like, yes, I use these very clean marble engraved chess things. You're like, huh? I thought you might have used a chess set made of like skin or something, but sure, whatever you want. So like, he's a very smart character. The only way that he ends up getting beaten is because the main character starts fucking with his head using like, I'm not afraid of you. I think I'll do that. So he starts like making like stupid moves, and Lord of Lost is like, "What the fuck are you doing? What?" So like, I just really enjoy his character, and that's like the very basis of his character. That's just the first book. There's like 12. There's like 11 others. That's why I like.
11.
So that's why I really like him as an antagonist. So you don't know what the fuck he's thinking. But aye, that ends us on the topic of favourite antagonists.
Now that moves us on.
And it moves us on to unskippable intros.
Yeah.
There's just something about certain intros that you can't skip. It's like you'll get that option to skip on Netflix, but you're like, no, this is one of the few. Seeing as I got you to start last time, I shall start us off this time with Futurama. And there's a lot of intros out there that will like change every so episodes. Like you'll see like a certain change. So like Futurama, you've got the dun 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 bam 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 bam. It goes for the city. It's a really enjoyable intro. It goes for the city and all that. Yeah. But what you notice is the billboard at the end will always have something different, or some episodes will have different like things animated in it. I always found that cool. So it's one of the reasons why you don't skip it. But I just generally think it's a really neat intro, a nice song to listen to. It's pretty much Futurama for you.
That's your first one.
That's my first one.
Yeah. My first one is it's gonna be Still Game actually, and I'm talking the original one, the first one. Not so much the one that the second one that they've used since the reboot and that. But yeah, that first one is such a banger. You end up like sort of singing along to it when it's on. Yeah. You know, it's not lyrics, but like you're singing away to it, and it's great as well. I think what also makes good intros is obviously the theme, not just the theme, but like what they're showing. So obviously, we're Still Game. The premise of that intro is like you're seeing both the main characters, Jack and Victor, like essentially how they looked from different points in their age.
Yeah.
So it starts off when they're like wee boys, and then the teens, and then the 20s, 30s, blah blah blah, all the way up to what they are now. And it's I think it's a great intro.
That's good. I really enjoy that intro as well. But my second one is from Dexter, and it's a really pleasing intro to watch. It's one of those ones where it's like satisfying to watch because it just goes through his day from him waking up. Dexter's waking up, so you get him waking up. He gets out of bed. He's like shaving himself. Oh, he starts bleeding. He wipes the blood away and puts one of those things on his cheek that you do when you cut yourself with shaving. He goes to make dinner, and suddenly you see ketchup in that, and then he cuts the egg, and there's like blood everywhere. And like, oh, what's that? Oh, it's an egg. You see him cooking that prior as well, and it just generally gets with him, like clothing himself up, getting ready for work, and it ends with him leaving, and you see his face. But that's just like it seems like a really average intro at first glance if you don't know nothing about the show. But then you realise, oh wait, Dexter's a murderer. He murders folk, and him every time you see blood or some sort of like symbolism towards what it could be murder, like him cutting up the egg and yolks everywhere and like splatters and that, is symbolism for he kills folk, and it's just really interesting. And the music that's used as well is So good. It's like bam 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 dun 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 dun
Mm-hmm.
dun 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 dun. I just can't. I just can't skip it. I love watching it. How about yourself? Another one from you?
I tell you what, actually, I was thinking about including Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, because it is such a classic, you know. Most people that watch the show, they'll sing or rap along to it, you know. It's a great one, but I feel like I can't include it because it's so goddamn fucking long. So if I'm ever like going through the show, like yeah, first few times I'll listen to it in full, you know. But then it's so long. It's so long. I just have to skip it. I think it'll be the same for like I think there's a few other long intros like Game of Thrones. That's a good theme, good intro, but it's just long.
Yeah.
So my next one is going to be Stranger Things, actually.
Mm.
And yeah, Stranger Things is so good. Just the whole aesthetic of the 80s, and it's shown in the theme as well. You know, like with the actual the visuals is obviously like that you see the letters. It's like very dark background. It's like a black background, but then you see the letters in like sort of neon red type thing. They're like going about the screen until they finally like line up and come together to read out Stranger Things.
Mm-hmm.
But the theme itself is just that's amazing. It's very much 80s like with the whole use of the synthesizers. It's quite like it's quite tame in a way, quite tame, kind of quiet, eerie, to sort of symbolizes the way the show is. It's
It
quite
doesn't. It
eerie.
doesn't tell you what the show's about. It just gives you a
No.
general idea of what when it might be set, if you like pay attention, maybe.
But it's so enjoyable.
Yeah.
Just the way one of the synthesizers is arpeggiating is great, and then you get like the rest of the chords. It's like bang, bang, bang. You know what I mean?
It's one of those like it's not a short intro though, is it? It's not quite classed as a short
Semi.
one. It's not like
It's not
Breaking
too
Bad
bad.
levels of it's just like ba-da-bum, ba-da-bum, and it
Yeah.
just disappears and that's it.
So it's a reasonably lengthy.
Yeah, it's like at least 30 seconds or so.
Aye. But that's great. And what also makes me love it even more is the artist Deadmau5. He's actually done a remix of it as well, which I listen to like every now and again because it's amazing.
Nice.
But yeah, that's me for Stranger Things.
Well, my next one is I think it's just purely because I just like the show and I like the song that's used in the intro, and it's for Scrubs, and it's the song that I don't know what the song name is, but it's like I Ain't No Superman, and it goes through like what their days are like in like a fast forward, so it like starts in the room and it starts going like forward, but you're seeing like a one of those like montage things where people are just going by really fast and shit, and ends up at a wee like at the bedside or like there's a wee like X-ray thing, and it ends with one of them putting up something, and the last lyric you hear is I know Superman, because that's the thing. Doctors aren't Superman. They're not invincible. No. They're still people. Just because they work really hard doesn't mean they're not like vulnerable. And that's pretty much it for Scrubs. It's just so I just can't skip it because it's not like a really long one either. It's like a minute or 30 seconds long.
Yeah.
One as well. But aye, Scrubs is a good one.
Yeah. It's kind of important. The intros aren't too long.
Yeah.
And the next one I'm going to mention is there's sort of two versions of it. You've got the full version, which you can obviously find on like YouTube or whatever. But the one they use for the show is like a decent length.
Yeah.
And it's for Keenan and Kel.
Yeah.
And oh my god, Like, not only is it like quite nostalgic, sorry,
Yeah.
but the theme is just this like, it's really good hip hop type track. It was written by Coolio as well, who obviously did the his top track is the what was it? Gangster's Paradise. That's it.
Yeah.
So yeah, he wrote the theme for it, and it's like, oh, here it goes. It like hits in. It's cool as well because the lyrics are talking about like Keenan and Kel and whatnot.
Yeah.
So I just feel like it's really well written. It suits the vibe of the show, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, there's not too much really to say about it.
Saying that it was like it can be a long one if they air the one with the long intro.
Yes, yeah. There's the long version, the full version of it.
Because if there's a show that I was just having a look there, I think neither of us have got it on our list, is Good Omens. I feel like it's an honorable mention that we can both mention as an intro.
Yes,
We never skipping that actually, but it's a really long one.
That is a long one.
Oh my god, it's so good. Dun, 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 dun.
Oh man, it's funny about that as well.
Are you gonna mention?
Was the yeah. It's because obviously I think the way they do it is they kind of have like a not entirely like a flashback, similar to the way the Guardians started. Guardians 2, isn't it?
Yes.
It's like they start the episode off with like a sort of
Oh yeah.
the
A wee flashback, like
yeah
that has something to do with the episode after the flashback ends.
yeah. So they have the part of the story where they start off, and it's before the main story, just sort of tie in, and then once they catch up to this point, then they'll air the intro. And there was just one episode we watched where it took until literally halfway through the episode before they showed the intro.
Keep in mind when we say halfway, we don't mean like maybe 12 minutes into it. No, this is
No,
an hour long, about an hour long episode, and it was 30 minutes in. It wasn't kind of like it's not quite like watching Friends, and you're like 10 minutes into it, and then the Friends intro starts. No, this is half an hour into the fucking episode. We were both just flabbergasted. We both mentioned like, do you notice there is no intro for this? And then a few minutes like later, like we were like 25 minutes in the episode, and then a few minutes after saying that, there's a fucking intro, and we're like, what? Blasphemy.
What is this? Yeah. But yeah, Good Omens is a fucking fantastic intro.
We don't really do examples that we share in unison. We mostly just go for like own individual ones. But
Aye.
it's a good thing I remembered that there because we both like really like that intro.
Mm-hmm.
But whose turn was it? Is it my turn or your turn?
It's yours. Is yours.
Yes. It is my last one for this topic. It is King of the Hill intro, and I wouldn't say it's wholesome, but it's just such a an uppity beat intro, and it's basically Hank Hill, the main character, is up front in like at a fence where it's sort of like the hangout for the main characters. He cracks open a beer, and the theme song starts going. It's like dun 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 dun, and it's going like through like a fast forward of the day of them just sat there like cracking cold ones open and drinking them, and fucking it just ends the day with like Bobby and Peggy next to him, and it like does the whole like what was it? It has the title behind him sort of shite, and it's not really like an important intro to the show. It doesn't really tell what the show's about at all. It's just a really nice intro to look at. And it's something I just never skip. I don't think it's that long either. That wraps me up for my.
As you finished.
Un-skippable Intros. How about your Shell? So your last one?
Well, my last one is quite an old one, but oh my god, it's iconic, and it's the match of the day theme. No, obviously you get it's live, right? So a lot of the time, if you're watching the show, you'll be watching it live, so you can't necessarily skip it. But there's times where, like say back in the day, you might have had a skybox. You would have stuck it on record, then you can watch it the next day or something. Or even if you missed it, like nowadays, you can catch it on the iPlayer, right? So yeah, there's obviously the options of skipping it if you wanted, but there's not a chance of my skipping that. Oh no, I love it. It's just such a hook, right? It's got such a hook to it. That's the match theme, and yeah, I think the show started in like the 60s, like 64, was it? And yeah, since then they've had this theme, this exact theme. They've never changed it at all. They've changed like the visuals for it, and that's dependent on like the teams that are there in that season. So they'll change it and do new visuals and that. But the actual song stays the exact same, and it has done since the 60s. So not only is it like, such a staple in football culture and just general themes, it's just very enjoyable.
Aye.
So yeah, that's my last one. So it moves us on to our last topic, doesn't it?
It does.
Which the last topic is pet peeves. Would you like to start?
Well, I can. I will start in saying folk that speak over you when you've been speaking first, but they're clearly not been listening or just don't care. That does my nutting. Actually does my nut. Happens a lot in Naruto, or just in general speaking with my family, as I'll literally be speaking to them for like a good few minutes in a group or just with 2 others, and then out of nowhere they just interrupt me, or when I finish, they just completely go on a rant of their own, not even acknowledging what I've said, and I'm like, bruh, just don't care. Rude. Actually does my nutting. I've got family that do it all the fucking time, where I'm literally mid-sentence and they'll go off topic and interrupt me about something and I just completely forget what I was saying. So not only do they suddenly just feel like they don't care what you're saying, they just had to interject with their own nonsense that has nothing to do with the fucking situation. That's my nutting.
You're just like, excuse me.
Excuse me? This ain't an open conversation. This ain't a fucking debate. Act like we're in court. But aye, that pisses me off.
Okay, I can see why. So first on my list is it can also happen when you're on a night out, right? And it's when you go for a piss, right? And for example, let's say it's Spoons. Spoons has like, how many urinals is there?
12, maybe 10.
Like 8 or something.
Or 8.
12 even, yeah. So there's a good amount of urinals, and there's this unwritten rule where you don't go to the urinal that's right next to someone. You leave a gap. So if someone's in the first urinal, you leave the gap. You go to the third urinal, right? That's the way you do it. And my pet peeve is people who don't do that, and they stand literally the one that's right next to you, even though there's tons of others free, like further down the way. It's like, why the fuck did you have to pick the one that's right next to me? Why? Have a bit of privacy, even though there is obviously the fucking like barrier things to the side just to sort of block. It's still
they have ulterior motives.
You could literally go anywhere.
Aye.
But you had to go. It gets me. Yeah, that's my first one.
Okay. My second one is folk that berate you for being unaware of pronunciation or words that are regularly said and have only seen or heard written. And it does my nutting. So, like, I'll say a word, like, I still can't even remember how it's pronounced, but I remember reading ambidextrous, or ambidextrous. And I said it once to a group of people, and they just made fucking fun of me. And I was like, bruh, how often is it said in conversation for me to know? I've literally seen it, read once, and I explained this, and they're still like, nah, you're a fucking idiot. And I'm like, are you serious? Nah. Or, like, you see a name written down and you don't know how to pronounce it because, like, you shouldn't get berated for that shit, because obviously you don't know, like, I'll ask the name and shit like that. But it's when words that you literally only know that you've read, and they're rare words, they're words that nobody should really know, but for some reason those fucking cunts that can know the words suddenly decide they need to berate you for it. Does my nutting. Like, haha, you're so funny berating me for lack of knowledge in something that's rarely ever said. Haha, haha, great crack.
Aye.
Does my nutting.
Oh, sometimes you can get that where it will like names, if it's like foreign names like that, you have no idea how it's.
So what a lot of teachers do is, like, you see teachers be like, can you pronounce the name for me so I don't mess it up? That's fine. I have no option. I can't just go, so boys, how do you pronounce ambidextrous before I start saying, oh, I'm ambidextrous?
Yeah.
Because I could look it up, I suppose, but
Aye.
it's just
It's
remembering
a bit
it.
different with the names.
Yeah.
Aye, so second on my list, I have, like, anytime you've got headphones in, and it's either when you pull an earbud out by accident, or you pull the actual headphones out of the phone, or whatever you've got it plugged into. Anytime that happens, I don't know what it is, it angers me a bit. Because obviously, like, I'm in the mood to listen to this music. I'm like jamming away, you know, I'm vibing with what I'm listening to, and then all of a sudden, like, something, and it gets pulled out of that, and I don't know what it is. I don't know what about it is, because obviously, you know, a lot of the case, it's just it can't be helped. It's just something.
Does that happen to you a lot at the gym?
It has a couple times.
It happens to me every time I go to the gym. Like, my ears are not suited for fucking earphones, which is why I would take headphones, but they're just so huge and, like, I don't know, maybe weighty that I'm like, nah, I will just stick with the earphones. But, like, my earphones, there's always the one ear and it's always the right. It'll just, like, ba-dunk, right out of it, and I'm like, you stay the fuck in there, little bitch.
I know. It just, because it's if it keeps happening as well, it just even more annoys you.
Yes.
You know, because it becomes repetitive. And you're like, come on.
Slippery ears. Or jacks.
Exactly. Sometimes you can get it. So it's obviously, yeah, you can have it like something could get caught and it could pull out. Or obviously, yeah, you could just have the earbuds itself just fall out. You're like, what do you mean? How's that? Excuse me. Or in some cases, I've had phones where the jack gets kind of like clogged up, if you know what I mean, with like just like shite essentially. So sometimes you have to like clean it out with like a toothpick or something. But in those times where it is like a bit fucky, you have to like kind of hold the jack, the actual like your headphones. You have to like put it in a certain way. And if it gets moved, it'll connect. So that also applies to this. Sometimes that happens. You're like, right, I've got in a good spot. And it's like
my phone's like that. It's got a jack, a port that you can put in, and literally you have to hold it in. Like, you can't prop it up anywhere. You actually have to physically hold it in yourself. So I just caved in and got like the Bluetooth headphones, earphones rather, and they're good. You charge them, and once they're fully charged, it lasts like 5 hours, and it's fine for like an hour of gym per day. So like every 3 days, I can just put it on charge again.
It's cushy.
Yeah. Also, you don't have to. The only thing you have to worry about unplugging is your fucking ears.
Oh.
Would I be presumptuous to say that's that one done?
Yes, it is. That's me finished. What's your third one?
This is one that I'd always get in high school specifically, and it did my fucking head in. Still does my head in now when I see it happening. Is people that take up the entire sidewalk or hallway as a group and don't move when you try to get past. It fucking infuriates me to be on no leaf. Like, it happened so often in the high school, there was a point where I was like, fuck it. If you're not moving up my way, I'm walking into you and you're falling over. No choice. If you're not gonna be fucking, like, you're a part of a group, be responsible in that group. If you're not gonna fucking move, it's your own fault you fall over. I'm not gonna fucking stick to a wall just because you're being a cunt.
Aye. It's like, move it the fucking road.
It's funny too. I remember that happened, and the guy got up to try and fucking start something, and then realized I was like a good foot taller than him. Well, not a foot. That's exaggerating.
Aye.
Maybe a few inches. Like I remember in high school, like as a first year, I was probably almost a foot taller than most of my peers. I was a fucking. I was really tall when I was younger.
Yeah.
I got confused
Yeah.
for like a fifth or sixth year back in like first or second, a lot of the time. My voice would allude otherwise, but I never spoke really, a whole class. But those folk do my fucking nutting. Like, make way, be considerate, you fucks.
Yeah, I'm one. I'm not like that. I'm more one to like tilt my body to like sideways in a way, just to make it easier for both of us.
Yes, I do that like one,
that.
but see if there's just a large group and not a single person is making headway, like it's physically impossible for me to get out of the way, especially in a hallway. You know you're getting fucking pushed. It's your own fault. You're not being funny. Oh, I fucking don't miss school at all. But I never went from years now.
Aye. So my third. This annoys me so much. It's radio edits of songs, and so yeah, like I understand why radio edits exist, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you get some songs that are quite long. In some cases, they could be like 5 minutes or something like that, And the radio, a lot of the time, they're like quite strict in songs not being long. They're like, right, it needs to be between 2 minutes and 3 minutes, or at a push, maybe 3 minutes 30. That's roughly the ideal time for a song. Because they don't sit there and play a song for ages and like have their audience like disengaged because they don't like the track, so they're like, oh, I'm gonna go over to a different radio, So a lot of the time they're trying to keep people engaged and get things moving quite quickly. But there's times where I've had, like, say I'm working at that and the radio's on, or I'm in a car, right? And a lot of the time they play just the same shite pop tracks, and that's also a bit of a pet peeve. I'm not gonna make a whole thing about that.
Well, that's now my next pet peeve.
Aye, it's the same shite all the time. It's like, come on, please.
It's like, yeah, the reason it's popular is it was a good song, not because it's fucking repetitive.
Exactly.
That's what ruins the song. Like,
there's the odd time.
Human by Rag and Bone Man was ruined because of that.
Aye, but there's times where the radio does play. It plays some good tracks, right? So, say for example, like I've heard times where they've chucked on like a "Bring Me the Horizon" song, or one that stands out would be Muse. One of Muse's songs, "Nights to Sidonia," and that's kind of a long track. I think that's nearer like 5 minutes. That one, and it's a fantastic track. So if I'm listening to these songs, and I'm like I'm in the mood, I know how the song is. I know like the different sections and that because I'm quite like intricate with all that stuff. So if I'm listening away, and then all of a sudden there's like a 30-second chunk just cut out of it. And it's so obvious. And I'm like, why have you done this? Why? That was such a good part as well. I'm like, oh. It's so annoying. I've heard it done with, there's an Avenged Sevenfold song as well. I think it's Almost Easy that does it as well. There was a part that was just cut out, and it's the bit like right before the solo. And it's like one of the best parts because it has the Rev singing in it as well. So to cut that part out is absolute blasphemy. Whoever made that edit needs to be fired. They need to be something needs to happen. So yeah, a lot of the time if I do hear these like crappy radio edits, I'm like, nah, I'm gonna go and add this to my Spotify queue so I can listen to it in full and do the song justice.
Yeah.
Aye, that's
I can understand that from a musician's point of view. Well, my last one is maybe more personal to me because like certain folk, like maybe if you're named Ken or Ben or something, you're not gonna have your name misspelled, and if you are, it's by an idiot. It's like, Ben, how do you spell that? Is that Ben? No, no cunt's gonna be like that. Or else misspelling my name when they either know it well or have it in front of them in email form or other, and they still get it fucking wrong. I'm just like, how is this possible? It's like, god damn. God fucking damn it. Like, I know my name's not easy to fucking spell out. I don't expect people to be like, oh, so what's your name? I'm like, Caden. And they'll write it down. But it's also a name that I can't say perfectly because of the way I speak. So they either think I'm saying Kane or Aiden. I'm like, no, it's fucking Caden. It's fucking Caden. And they're like, oh, Kane. So no.
Riles, yep.
It really riles me up. I would have rather a better, like, not a better name, an easier name to say. For people, like, because it is an easy name to say, but if you're me, it's not. Because I fucking sort of slur when I speak. But it's more so the fact that they'll have my name, and they'll be like, oh, you're Caden, okay, good, Caden. And I'll see them, like, writing an email or something to me, and they've spelled my name with, like, an A-N instead of a Y-N, or K-A-Y, K-A-Y-D-E-N. I fucking hate that spelling so much. It just gets on my nerves.
Oh boy.
Aye, that wraps me up for my pet peeves.
Is that all of yours?
Aye.
Oh, so this will be the last one then.
Okay.
Yeah, so my last pet peeve is YouTube adverts. Goddamn fucking YouTube adverts. And they annoy me for a few reasons, alright? So obviously you get the ones that are at the start of videos, right? And beforehand it was like you had just the one advert, right?
Mm-hmm.
And as of more recently, you had like you either had the adverts that were like 30 seconds long, or they were like way longer, but you could skip them after like 4 or 5 seconds or something like that. But as of recently, they've like started pumping out even more, so it's like you got to watch 2 adverts now before you can watch your video. Fuck off, please! I can't be arsed with this. It's so annoying because there's times where, let's say, I'm going to show someone a song, or I'm going to show someone something, right? And I'm talking about it, blah blah blah, and I'm like, right, and then it's this, and then I press play only for an advert to come up, and it's like trading 212, and I'm like, no. So it kind of ruins the like timing of trying to show someone something as well, as just you're going to watch that and then it pops up and you're like, oh. But you also get the adverts that are like midway through a video,
Mm-hmm.
and they're so aggravating to me because obviously in like TV format you get your shows and they stop at a certain like good point. It's like right at the end of like a proper scene or that, and it makes sense for it to cut away from that point and then start showing adverts and then it comes back, right? But with YouTube there is no good point in it at all. It's just like it could be right in the middle of someone's sentence, and then it just cuts to a fucking advert for like Renault car. It's like because it's so disassociating you, like with a video. You just lose you lose a bit of that enjoyment.
I do see that some videos actually have
and some videos
well
like really
placed
roast you in it. Some of them do, yeah,
but not all of them, because that actually requires the creator to input spots for ads to go. Not everybody's like that, like not finesse, but like not that fucking thingy about doing it.
Even very recently they added the feature on, because I often watch YouTube on my PlayStation, so I use the PlayStation app for YouTube, and they've added the feature where like it tells you when an advert's coming up in like the bottom right. It's like advert in 4, 3, 2, and it's like, come on.
At least it prepares me. I suppose that preparation can also aggravate you even more because you know it's coming.
It does. It adds to. It's like, it's kind of similar to like Sundays being slightly not that great because Monday's coming.
Oh my god! Like I know, like today's like my Sunday. No, today's my Saturday because
Oh,
tomorrow
yeah.
is my last day off before I go back to college again. So you're like
So yeah.
dreading that day.
So although tomorrow is like a day off, you've still got the dread of the next day.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like that, yeah, with the counting down and being like, "Oh, there's an advert coming. There's an advert coming." It's all the shite. I hate YouTube adverts, but I'm not giving them my money. I'm not giving them my fucking money to pay for premium.
Or I suppose as you're saying, because you fucking use PlayStation, so do I. You can't really use ad blocker.
No. Indeed.
I honestly wouldn't even be fussed using ad blocker, even if I did use my PlayStation, my PC anyway. I'm a bit lazy when it comes to that sort of shit. Like, ads don't bother. Like, they do bother me, but they don't bother me enough to fucking be as no. It's not my pet peeve, but I still fucking hate them. Ugh. Aye.
So I think that finishes us then, doesn't it?
That brings us to an end.
Closure to episode 8.
Episode 8, Finn. And hope you guys enjoyed my shite patter and
And my shape pattern.
and well, join us again for next episode. Bye bye.
Catch you later.